when she gives you a thumbs up. Ready? Campbell Folk School Christmas Party. This is...
I'm David.
And this is Martha. We're starting with a little fiddle tune. What's that fiddle tune called? Rochester Shot It.
Yeah, just to get the buds out.
Yeah. Our hands are a little bit cold. It is a cold, frosty morning here in Brasstown. We're going to do a few things for you and talk at you. I'm looking at our list here. What's our first thing?
Wool from the sheep.
Oh. In Q. See? What you?
Yep. Why in the world would we want to do this song?
Well, it is my dedication in my life to make sure a sheep is part of every conversation. So this one has a sheep in it. Oh, dear. And also, we're looking for something seasonal. So when you're listening to this, you can see the different seasons that go across the song. Banjos have to be retuned, y'all. That's just the way life goes. So it has a chorus, which you might pick up on. I remember when I learned this song, I took it to school with me and I sang it to the kids, and their eyes went wider and wider and wider as they tried to hang on to the chorus. So you just see if it comes to you later in the day. Lambs are a-bleating and the weather's getting warm. Coats are looking shaggy on the old sheep farm. Give them all a haircut, store the wool away. It's great for making mittens on a rainy day. From the wool, from the sheep, it was sheared, it was carded, it was spun, it was dyed, it was hung and sorted, wound into skeins until it could be knitted into clothes to keep us warm for the winter. Berries from the bushes give us reds and blues. Onion skins give a browner hue. Boil them up in water, stir them all around for the fine rich colors that our nature found. From the wool, from the sheep, Ramadans who live in Massachusetts, I believe, in Northampton. I've never met them, but the song was brought to me by Chris Spicer, who used to work here at the John C. Campbell Folk School in programming. And in fact, Chris was the first one that ever invited me to teach a class, which was a big life changer for me. So, there you go. What else are we doing? I'm going to cry. I'm talking about Chris.
You're doing a story.
I'm doing a story. All right. This would be good. We have to get up for a second. So we live in Western North Carolina. The folk school is right here in Brasstown, and if you walk 10 minutes or drive 10 minutes, you're in Tennessee, and 10 minutes the other way, you're in Georgia. And we have a lot of mountains around us, and sometimes it's cold, like it was kind of cold today. Not as cold by New England standards, of course. I know, talking to my friend in Vermont, that there's a couple of feet of snow up there right now. And there might have been more snow here back in the olden days, who can say. But this is a story about Jack, and Jack grew up in the mountains, is well known in the mountains, because he was always around. He's a pretty easygoing guy, and he always seemed to get in fixes, but always seemed to come out okay. In this particular story, he's living with his mama in their little log cabin, and if you want to, the next time you're at the folk school, they have brought Jack's cabin here. It is the Log Cabin Museum now. And you'll see it's got a small cabin-y shape made from logs and mud on one side, and a small cabin-y shape made from mud and logs on the other side. And you'll see two fireplaces or chimneys, which are outside of the house. In case they caught on fire, they could knock them free from the house. And down the middle is what you call a dog trot. And we so wanted to bring our dogs this morning because they... Whenever we start singing, they come and start barking. It's pretty entertaining. But anyway, we decided not to bring them here today. But let's just think about dogs and dog trot and small houses and mud between the logs. So Jack had two brothers, Will and Tom, and he had a father. But those three had gone off to work somewhere. I don't really know where they went. And so Jack was left at home with his mama. And the time that Jack grew up and lived here in Brasstown. We put him in Brasstown, why not? Everybody had a cow, everybody had a pig, everybody had a garden, everybody had a spring house, everybody had to work hard, and you had what were called chores. I still have chores because I have sheep, and I'm trying to excite my little grandsons about chores. They know exactly what I mean when I say we're not doing anything until the chores are done. Because when you have animals, you have to take care of them. They will wait for you, but they need to wait happy, which means they have enough to drink and enough to eat. And when Will and Tom and Jack's father left, they said to Jack, "Now Jack, it's up to you to do all the chores." And so he was glad enough to milk the cow and do whatever. But his main chore of all, especially in the wintertime, was chopping wood. And that was one chore he really found to be a chore. And he'd spend most of the day out there chopping because of the two fireplaces and because of the cook stove and just trying to keep warm. And the problem with the little house was that the mud had fallen out between the logs. The chinking was gone in lots of places. And so it got to be about this time of year, December, and the wind started to creep into the house. So Jack's first idea was to put more clothes on. I happen to have a service design scarf here that was made at the John C. Campbell Folk School. Probably not the style that Jack wore, but his mama saw him out there chopping wood and milking the cow and with his scarf on, and she was sure that he was going to catch it all, and she'd holler out at Jack. Seemed like that's the way she talked to Jack all the time. "Jack, now what are you doing?" He said, "I'm chopping wood just so you can be warm." Now one day, the wind got so strong that it started blowing out the candles on the table and the lamps, and it started coming down the chimney. And Jack's mother said, Jack, I'm just so cold, I can't stand it. And Jack, by this time, well, we'll take our pile of clothes later. By this time, Jack was pulling the quilt off of his bed and wearing it around in the house. It was so cold. And she said, why don't you go get a hammer and some nails and some pieces of wood and block up those holes. Well, Jack thought about it. He remembered last time they had that hammer. It was Will and Tom. They got to messing around. They bent all the nails and broke the handle, and there were no planks left. So he didn't bother her with that information. He just said to her, Mama, I've made up my mind. Oh, he probably went like this. I've made up my mind. And she said, excuse me? No, he says, I decided that what I need to do is find the hole where the wind comes out and stop up the hole. That would be a lot better than trying to block the house from... Now, what Jack's mama knew was that once he made up his mind, that was it. There's no reason to try and talk him out of it. So she said, all right then, make sure you have enough clothes on. And Jack's idea was that he would take his old hat and he would put that in the hole, if he could just find the hole. And then he put on his own hat and he started out. Now, of course, if you are trying to find the place where the wind comes out, that means you're walking into the wind all day long. He just kept following the trail of the wind, and it was quite persistent. It came out of the northwest, and he just kept walking and walking and walking with his hat blowing all day long and his scarf, and he was just tired and cold, and you know how it is. And he still hadn't found the hole when he happened to look up, and he saw a man standing right there beside the road, and the man said to him, Jack, what are you doing? What are you doing? The man seemed to know him. He was very puzzled. Jack said, well, I know you're not going to believe me, but I'm headed for the place where the wind comes out of the ground, and I'm going to block up the hole. The old man had a white beard. Just like that. He says, now, Jack, let's think this over. And Jack says, I'm determined. It's so cold at our house, we can't light a light in the night because the wind just keeps blowing it out. We just can't do it. And the man says, Jack, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll take you home with me. I will give you something to warm yourself up, and we'll talk this over. So they go to the man's house, and his house is nice and tight and warm, and he's got a big fire going there, and they made popcorn, and they had hot chocolate, and they were sitting there thinking over things, and it was starting to feel kind of dark outside, and the old man said to Jack, now, Jack, you need to go home and take care of your mama. How could you leave her like that? Well, I left her a big pile of firewood. He said, no, Jack, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you'll go back home right now, I will give you a present. Now, Jack was not accustomed to getting presents, so he said, well, what could it be? And the man said, you're going to like this one. Well, you get your clothes on. So Jack put his hat back on and his scarf, and he had a big coat there. And he said, here. And he took out this tablecloth, and it was red and white checked. And Jack said, oh, we don't really need a new tablecloth, mister, but thank you. And he said, no, this isn't like any tablecloth you ever met before. This tablecloth will put whatever kind of food you like on it. When you say, lay, tablecloth, lay. Any kind of like? Even pizza? Yes, even pizza. So Jack took the tablecloth and he folded it up and he put it under his arm and he started for home. And as he was leaving, the man said, now look, Jack, right beside me here lives a crowd of rough and rowdy boys. Don't stop there or they'll get that tablecloth. Well, Jack, you know, he's just walking along, he wasn't paying attention when this crowd of rough and rowdy boys came up and said, what's your name? What's that? What are you doing, taking a tablecloth for a walk? Jack says, this isn't just any tablecloth, let me show you. And there, right in the snow, he put the tablecloth out and he said, lay, tablecloth, lay. And everything you could imagine was there. There was a big ham, there was macaroni and cheese, and of course, for David, there was Brussels sprouts. And they didn't care, they just ate with their hands, they ate like a bunch of dogs. said, Jack, we would love to show that tablecloth to our dad. Well, okay, thought Jack, okay. So they took the tablecloth inside, and when the dad came home, they showed him, they fell to and ate again, and they said, Jack, now you have to spend the night with us. And they folded the tablecloth up, and Jack took it up the loft ladder where he was going to sleep, and he had the tablecloth under his head. In the middle of the night, though, those rough and rowdy boys sneaked up the loft ladder and whispered a lot. And they took Jack's tablecloth out, and they shoved a tablecloth in that looked just the same but was not magical. Next morning, Jack was so eager to get home, he just slid down the loft ladder and out the door he went with his tablecloth under his arm. He went home, Mama, Mama, Mama. The wind was still blowing. And she said, well, you're back. I see the wind's still blowing. He said, I know. It's a long story, but look, I have a present. And she said, well, show me what the present is. So he took the tablecloth and he put it on their table and he said, lay, tablecloth, lay. Tablecloth didn't do a thing. He shook the tablecloth. Lay, tablecloth, lay. Nothing happened. She said, well, Jack, that was a good story. Thank you very much. And she took the tablecloth and she made Jack a new red and white shirt from it. And then she told him, would you go and chop some firewood for me? So he's back out there chopping wood. Actually, I'm getting a bit warm. We'll have this for later. And he got to thinking, well, I never got my job done because now the wind was blowing, I don't know, I think it was still coming from the northwest. That's where the wind seems to come from. All our weather comes out of the west here. And he thought to himself, well, I'm going to try and do my job. Shall I sing loud? La, 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 la. Or is he trying to tiptoe across the floor just in case y'all want to know? Anyway, he got to thinking, and you know exactly what he did. He went to his mama. She said, chop me a big pile of firewood. He chopped a big pile of firewood, and he left out. This time it was a little colder, so he did put his hat on, and he had his scarf, and he added this time a shawl. Oh, my goodness. He stole it from his mama. She didn't notice. And he started out, and he thought to himself, I am not going to stop with that old man because he gave me something that didn't work. So he decided to go through a field, climb over a fence a different way this time. And what should happen? There's the old man there. And the old man says, well, Jack, what are you doing? You look pretty cold. Are you all right? And Jack said, I'll say I'm cold, but you're not going to stop me this time. I'm going to where the hole is, where the wind comes out, and I'm going to put my hat in it. Actually, I'm going to put his hat in it, the old one. The old man says, now look, Jack, you look like you feel like an ice cube. And ice cubes don't get very far in this world. I think you should come home with me. You should just come home with me. Jack felt so much like Ice Cube, he just said, all right, we'll go home. And when they got to the man's house, there was a big fireplace there. They had a big fire. And what do you think they had to eat this time? Chicken noodle soup. I know that's what they had. It was great. And they got to talking, and the man said, now look, Jack, this is something you can't accomplish. I really think that you should go back and be with your mama. And if you go right now, I'll give you a present. Jack says, well, what would the present be? The man says, go get your things on. So he put his hat back on and got his scarf on and got his shawl and it's over top of his jacket. The man brought out a big rooster. And he said, Jack, now I know this looks just like a regular rooster, but it in fact is not. It's not? Well, why? Because Jack, this rooster lays golden eggs. Lays golden eggs. Roosters don't lay eggs. Oh, well, this one does. This one does. You say to the rooster, you put him down somewhere. Like, sometimes I just put him on the top of a chair and I put the basket underneath him and I say, lay, rooster, lay. Jack says, that didn't work the last time on the other. It will this time, Jack. Now you go on and you take this rooster, you say, lay, a basket full of golden eggs before you blink twice. Well, Jack thought that was worth a try, and he was pretty cold and he was missing his mama. You know how it is. You think you want to get away from your mama, but really you start missing her pretty quick. So he took that rooster and he put it under his arm, and he started out. And as he was leaving, the man said, "Now, Jack, remember about those rough and rowdy." "Oh, whatever, whatever." And he decided he wasn't going to go to the rough and rowdy boys' house. But do you know what? They were everywhere. Every place Jack went, he saw one or another and another. And all of a sudden, they came out of the woods everywhere, and they said, "Jack, taking your rooster for a walk? What's going on?" And Jack said, "This is my new rooster. This rooster lays golden eggs." And the boy said, "Well, that would be great. But a rooster doesn't lay eggs, Jack, don't you know?" I know, but this rooster lays golden eggs." And so they said, "Well, come on and show us." So they go into the wild, rough and rowdy boy's house, and they put the rooster on the back of a chair, and they say, "Lay, rooster, lay," and all of a sudden, all these eggs start coming out of the rooster, and they're catching them with their hands and in their hats, and I mean, there's so they said, "Jack, we so want to show this to our father." And Jack thought about it, and he's like, "Okay, do you have a cage I could put the rooster in?" And they took the cage and put it under Jack's bed up in the loft. Now, it was his bed. He'd been there 2 whole times. And even that one of the nights, you know what happened? I don't have to describe it, do I? Well, it sounded like, "Walk!" And then there was a new rooster there that was just like the old rooster, except for we know the difference, don't we? Next morning, Jack was so eager to get home to his mama. He took the rooster out of the cage, he slid down the loft ladder, and down the road he went. When he got home, the wind was still blowing. We have to do our wind demonstration. The wind was still blowing, and Jack's mother spotted him, and she said, "Well, I'm glad you're back. Do you see that the wind is still blowing?" He said, "I do, but look, Mama, I have this magic rooster." "Really?" Yeah, let me show you. So he took the rooster and he put it on the back of the chair. The rooster looked happy enough. They said, "Lay, rooster, lay," and "Walk!" I'm here to tell you, you just have to use your imagination, but he did not push out golden eggs. And the next thing that happened to that rooster, he became rooster pie. Rooster pie. Anyway, Jack went back to doing his chores, and the main thing he had to do was chop wood, and his mama said, "Now just forget all that nonsense, just forget it all." And Jack was so cold that he just couldn't forget it, and he realized that twice he had started out, and he had not accomplished his mission. So he went to his mama, and he said, "Mama, I've just made you a pile of wood to reach the sky. I think that'll hold you till I get the wind stopped." She's like, "Oh, Jack, come on now. Just stay with me. We got rooster pie. You have a new shirt. It's going to be great." And he said, "No, Mama, no. I have to do this. I have to try or die trying, Mama." So he gets on, what else is he? He takes the blanket off of his bed this time, and he wraps it up. Now, of course, his mama was a weaver. You know that she was. When Mrs. Campbell came here, she found Jack's mama and had her weave her a blanket too. Anyway, he started out, the wind in his face for the whole day, totally covered with clothes. He had so many clothes on he could barely bend his arms and his legs. And he thought to himself, "I am not going to go see that old man. I mean, he's been very nice to me, but something goes wrong every single time. I'm not going there." And so he decided to take the long cut, and he went around by Murphy, and he checked in with the famed grocery store, and then he kept on going. And do you know that that man was in Murphy the same day? And he said, "Well, Jack, come home with me." So, of course, he did. And when they got there, of course, they had wonderful food to eat. And, of course, the old man tried to convince Jack to go back home to his mama. Actually, he was in the old man's house. He didn't need all these clothes at that time. Whew! And he said, "Now, look, Jack, you go put all your outside clothes on. I've got one last present for you." And Jack said, "What could it be? Those other things didn't work. You have to show me that this works here." And he said, "Jack, I have one question. Did you stop and spend the night with those rough and rowdy boys?" I did. He said, that's where your rooster is, that's where your tablecloth is. Now, Jack, I'm going to give you this last present. You just go straight home. Jack said, okay, what is it? He put all his outside clothes on. I don't need to demonstrate that again, do I? And the man went to his woodpile, and he picked out a big stick. It was about this long, and it had a branch that was broken off. And Jack thought, I don't need another one of those. I spent all my time chopping wood. And the man said, Jack, here's the thing. It's not a regular stick. And he just turned and he pointed it at a tree not far from his front door, and he said, play away, club, play away. Knock down that tree and make it into pieces from toothpicks to logs for the stove. And all of a sudden, the club just went wild, and it played away on everything, and all the different sizes of wood were all stacked up right there in front of him. Jack got super excited. You remember how he spends most of his time doing chores. Doing what now? Doing what? And he's like, I'll have that. And he goes right to the Rough and Rowdy boys. And he says, I have something really special here. And the boy said, what else could you have? A rooster and a tablecloth. Those are pretty good. I know, he says, but I spent all my life chopping wood. This is the best thing I've ever been given in my life. And the boy said, well, what can it do? So he does the same demonstration. And the club plays away and knocks down a tree and builds a fence. I mean, it was just this amazing club. And the boys got so excited, and they said, now, Jack, we want to show that to our father. And Jack said, okay. And that night, he went to sleep with one eye open. I've been talking to my little grandsons about how you sleep with one eye open, and that's what Jack was doing. I can only close this one eye. I can't close the other one. So he's sleeping with one eye open, and he could hear them whispering, climbing up the loft, saying to each other, does this log look like his log? Oh, yeah, sure. And they went to pluck the log out of his hands, when all of a sudden Jack jumped up and he starts hollering, play away, club, play away, knock down this whole house, turn it into cinders, unless they give me back my rooster and my tablecloth. And he shinnied down the ladder, and the boys were running and hollering, tell it to stop, Jack, tell it to stop, because it knocked off the front porch, it knocked off the roof, it knocked off the chimney, and it was getting ready to start on the supper table, gonna chop up everything. When out of a high window comes a rooster, and out of the door comes a tablecloth. And Jack says, all right, club, to me. Club comes right back to his hand. He picks up his tablecloth. He picks up his rooster, goes home to his mama, and she still feels the wind blowing. But Jack says, and he takes the tablecloth and he puts it out on the table. He says, lay, tablecloth, lay. And there was a roast turkey, and there were mashed potatoes, cranberry sauce on the side, a little bit of fruit salad. They couldn't believe it. And they sat down and they ate and they ate and they ate, and they had food all down their chins and down their tummies. Then she said, that was good. Tell me about that rooster. Lay, rooster, lay. And the rooster did what roosters do. And all of a sudden, all these golden eggs came tumbling out. They rolled all over the floor, and Jack and his mama were laughing and catching eggs. It took them all afternoon. Tell me about that club. Oh, he said, this is the best thing ever. Watch this. And they walked out on the steps, and he said, play away, club. I forgot what the club says all the anyway, you know what I mean. And there were there were all kinds of sticks, and they had fires going. And not only that, Jack had enough money with those golden eggs to go get a new hammer, a bunch of nails, planks to repair the walls. And the last time I was down there, Jack and his mama were getting fat, and they didn't have to wear any of this stuff anymore. All right, that's the story of Jack. Now, do you want a song, or want a song? Okay. We have one more song. Actually, we've got about 12 more songs, but we'll do one more. And I have to get my banjo again. has a chorus too, and the chorus is something that I imagine you said to yourself when you were looking in the mirror this morning, getting ready to go to Morningson here at the Johnson Campbell Folk School. And I think you can catch on pretty easy. You ready? And I'm getting nothing for Christmas. Mommy and Daddy are mad. I'm getting nothing for Christmas, 'cause I ain't been nothing but bad. I bet you said that to yourself this morning, so we don't need to practice it. The words, though, I have to look at. I broke my bat on Johnny's head. Somebody snitched on me. I hid a frog in sister's bed. Somebody snitched on me. I spilled some ink on Mommy's rug. Made Tommy eat a bug. Bought some gum with a penny slug. Somebody snitched on me. Oh, I'm getting nothing for Christmas. Mommy and Daddy are mad. I'm getting nothing for Christmas, 'cause I ain't been nothing but bad. I put a tack on teacher's chair. Somebody snitched on me. I tied a knot in sister's hair. Somebody snitched on me. I did a dance on Mommy's plants. Climbed a tree and tore my pants. Filled the sugar bowl with ants. Somebody snitched on me. Oh, I'm getting nothing for Christmas. Mommy and Daddy are mad. I'm getting nothing for Christmas, 'cause I ain't been nothing but bad. Musical interlude. I won't be seeing Santa Claus. Somebody snitched on me. He won't come to visit me because somebody snitched on me. Next year I'm going straight. Next year I'll be good, just wait. I'd start now, but it's too late. Somebody snitched on me. Oh, I'm getting nothing for Christmas. Mommy and Daddy are mad. I'm getting nothing for Christmas, 'cause I ain't been nothing but bad. So you better be good whatever you do, 'cause if you're not, I'm telling you, you'll be getting nothing for Christmas too.
Okay, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.